The wrapped jewelry box sat on the kitchen counter like a secret begging to be discovered. Kelvin Race, 52, and weathered from decades of construction work, adjusted the silver ribbon with calloused fingers. "Tomorrow's the big day," he muttered, running a hand through graying hair. "Need to shave this beard. Don't want to look like I rolled off the construction site when I walk Grace down that aisle." His wife Marla didn't look up from her coffee, manicured nails tapping against ceramic. The wedding was last Saturday. The words hit like a sledgehammer. The coffee mug slipped from his fingers, shattering against granite. "What did you just say?" Marla slid her phone across the counter. Photos loaded. Grace in white, the garden ceremony, guests he recognized. And there, in the shot that should have been his proudest moment, a tall man in expensive charcoal walking his daughter down the aisle. "She asked Cliff Weston to walk her," Marla said casually. "Said she wanted someone more influential." "Influential," he repeated, the word tasting bitter. "Cliff's awesome," their 19-year-old son Gavin announced, grabbing an apple. "Super rich guy, made his fortune in real estate, took us to his private island last month. He's basically family now." "When you say us?" "Me, Mom, Grace, even got me this watch." Gavin flashed platinum. "Patek Philippe. Cliff says I remind him of himself. Ambitious, ready to move up." Marla's eyes never left her coffee. "He's been mentoring Gavin, connections at Harvard, investment opportunities. The kind of future a young man deserves. The kind I can't provide." "Those are your words, not mine." Kelvin picked up the jewelry box, the necklace he'd saved 3 months to buy, working double shifts for the pearl and diamond piece Grace had. Admired. "How long have you been planning to replace me?" "Replace you? Kelvin, you replaced yourself. When's the last time you took me anywhere nicer than Applebee's? When's the last time you offered our children anything beyond working class limitations?" "Working class built this house, paid for Grace's college," was being the operative phrase, Gavin interjected. "Cliff handled most wedding costs. Said Grace deserved better." That night, while Marla slept, Kelvin sat with whiskey and his laptop. The joint account showed the final wedding payment, $11,000. He canceled it, then opened a new account and began transferring funds beyond Marla's reach. A spreadsheet appeared. Restitution. Column headers: name, offense, price, status. First entry, Marla Race. Adultery, fraud, betrayal, TBD, pending. Monday brought phone calls like artillery fire. "Mr. Race, this is Elegant Events. The final payment bounced." "I wasn't invited," Kelvin interrupted. "Send the bill to whoever replaced me." By noon, vendors were threatening legal action. Kelvin's phone buzzed with frantic texts from Grace. "Dad, what's going on? The vendors are calling me. Why didn't you pay? This is embarrassing. Please just fix this." He turned off his phone. At Brennan and Associates, his lawyer Thomas spread documents across mahogany. "Kelvin, freezing marital assets is nuclear. This burns everything down. She replaced me, Tom, at my own daughter's wedding, with her boyfriend." "Boyfriend? You have proof?" Kelvin slid a manila folder across, thick with bank statements, hotel receipts, phone records. 6 months of detective work. Cliff Weston. 3-month pattern. 5-star hotels, expensive restaurants, weekend getaways to places I've never afforded. Brennan's eyebrows climbed. "This is extensive. How long have you been tracking this?" "Since I got suspicious. Credit cards don't lie. Neither do hotel registrations for 2. And the son wanting to change his name?" Kelvin's jaw tightened. "Got papers yesterday. Gavin Race wants to become Gavin Weston. Legal adoption by his mother's boyfriend. You have to sign off." "Not happening. Ever." "What exactly are you asking me to do?" "Everything. Freeze all marital assets. File for divorce on adultery grounds. Contest any claims on my business. And I want to know everything about Cliff Weston, his finances, his dealings, his vulnerabilities." "Everyone has secrets, Tom. Rich men especially. I want to know his..." Wednesday brought certified mail requiring Kelvin's signature. He sat in his truck reading legal documents for the 3rd time. Petition for legal name change, Gavin Michael Race to Gavin Michael Weston. Reason: alignment with new family structure. Request for adult adoption. Biological father's consent required new family structure. The language was clinical, but cut deeper than any physical wound. His phone rang. Marla, voice tight with panic. "This nonsense has gone far enough. Come home. Bring your checkbook." Kelvin didn't answer. He drove in silence, the road a blur, headlights carving through the dark like a blade. When he stepped through the front door 20 minutes later, Marla was waiting. She stood in the foyer, arms crossed, still dressed from whatever dinner she thought she'd earned. The robe he'd pulled from the gravel at Cliff's lakeside cottage was now folded in a plastic grocery bag in his hand. "You came," she said, trying for control. "Good. I told you. We needed to talk. I didn't mean like this. I meant calm, rational, not whatever this is." Kelvin held up the bag. Marla frowned. "What's that supposed to be?" "You left it behind," he said. "At the cottage. Thought you'd want it back." Her face went stiff. Color drained. "I was out with Victoria." "No, you were laughing over wine on Cliff's back patio." "Same cottage his company owns under a Shell LLC I traced last week." "You lied, Marla. You always lie when you're comfortable." "Kelvin," he dropped the bag on the floor. "When Grace said she wanted someone more influential to walk her down the aisle, I thought it was her idea. But now I know exactly whose fingerprints are on that decision. You don't understand. I understand everything. The hotels, the restaurants, the mentoring, the secrecy. You didn't just cheat on me. You wrote me out. One calculated move at a time." She tried to step closer, but he held up a hand. "Don't. We're past comforting lies and midnight apologies. The question now is how fast you pack." Marla's voice cracked. "I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did. And now I need to decide what that means. For the house, for the business, for our kids." She stared at him. "What do you want from me?" "I wanted the truth 2 months ago. Now, I want consequences." The house felt foreign when he entered. Expensive objects had appeared. Throw pillows, artwork, wine collection. Family photos rearranged, some missing. The wedding invitation sat on the mantel, elegant script announcing Grace's marriage. His name, nowhere on it. Marla stood in the living room, dressed for business. Behind her, Gavin lounged on the couch, his new watch glinting. "This tantrum needs to stop," she said after a pause. "Tantrum. Freezing accounts, refusing to pay for Grace's wedding. You're embarrassing us." Kelvin walked to the mantel, picked up the invitation. "Us? I see Grace's name, her husband's. Mr. and Mrs. Race request the honor. But somehow I missed my actual involvement." "You were working. Always working." "I was working to pay for this." He held up the invitation. 11,000 final payment, 23,000 total. Every cent from 16-hour days coming home covered in concrete dust. Cliff helped with costs. Cliff. Kelvin set down the invitation carefully. "Tell me about Cliff." Marla's composure wavered. "He's a friend. A successful businessman. A friend who takes you to the seaside resort. A friend who walks my daughter down the aisle. You're being paranoid." Kelvin pulled out his phone, scrolled to a photograph. "Recognize this?" Crystal clear. The seaside resort, March 15th. Marla and Cliff, hand in hand, walking toward honeymoon suites. "That was a business meeting? In the honeymoon suite?" Kelvin's voice dropped to a whisper. "Discussing what kind of business?" Color drained from Marla's face like water from a broken dam. 3 months, Marla. Every time I was out of state. Every time you said you were visiting your sister." He scrolled through more photos. The Grandview Hotel, Chez Laurent. The marina where he keeps his yacht. "Kelvin, where's Gavin going this afternoon?" "Meeting with Cliff about the internship. The investment firm wants to interview him." "Of course they do." Kelvin turned toward the door. "Where are you going?" "To introduce myself to my replacement." Weston Enterprises occupied the top 3 floors of Meridian Tower. Kelvin took the elevator to 42, still wearing work clothes. Steel-toed boots, denim jacket with his company logo. The reception area reeked of money and pretension. "I'm here to see Cliff Weston," he told the receptionist, whose smile faltered at his appearance. "Do you have an appointment?" "I'm family. He'll want to see me." 5 minutes later, heavy oak opened. Cliff Weston stepped out. Tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit costing more than Kelvin made monthly. Behind him trailed Gavin, looking like he'd won the lottery. "You must be Kelvin." Cliff extended a manicured hand. "I've heard so much." Kelvin didn't take it, just studied the man who'd dismantled his family. "We need to talk, privately." Cliff's smile faltered. "Gavin, wait in the conference room. Coffee, pastries from that bakery you liked." "But I thought we were going to discuss—" Gavin caught himself. Cliff, I thought, we'll continue in a few minutes." The slip hit Kelvin physically. His son had almost called this stranger Dad. Cliff's office was a monument to ego. Awards, photographs with politicians, a view of the entire city. He settled behind an aircraft carrier-sized desk. "Look, Kelvin, I know this is awkward." "Awkward?" Kelvin remained standing. You hijacked my daughter's wedding. You're brainwashing my son. You're sleeping with my wife. I prefer to think I'm filling a void. A void you created. Excuse me? Cliff leaned back, steepling fingers. Marla was lonely. Grace needed a father figure who could elevate her standing, open doors. Gavin deserves opportunities beyond blue-collar aspirations. Limited scope. Be realistic. What can you offer? A construction worker's pension? Modest home in middle-class neighborhood? Social connections among tradesmen? Cliff's smile turned predatory. I can offer Ivy League educations, trust funds, connections spanning industries. I can give them the life they deserve. Kelvin's hands tightened on the chair back. You arrogant piece of... Careful. I have security on speed dial. Your family has moved on to bigger things. The question is whether you'll accept that gracefully or force an ugly situation. What kind of ugly situation? Restraining orders? Public embarrassment. Cliff shrugged casually. Marla's already spoken to her attorney about no-fault divorce. She's being generous. You know what, Cliff? You're right. I can't offer what you can. Cliff's smile returned, triumphant. But I can offer something you can't. What's that? Consequences. The forensic accountant Patricia Vance spread documents across Kelvin's kitchen table like tarot cards predicting disaster. 27,000 missing from your home renovation account, transferred to a shell company called CW Global Assets over 4 months. CW Cliff Weston. Gets better. Your wife's signature on incorporation papers. She's listed as co-founder and CFO. Patricia pointed to unmistakably Marla's signature. This isn't forgery. She signed willingly. So while I worked overtime saving for Grace's wedding, they were stealing from the house fund. It's wire fraud. Conspiracy. Federal charges carrying serious prison time. Patricia pulled out another folder. Mr. Weston isn't as successful as he pretends. IRS investigating him for 2 years. Mid-6 figures in unpaid back taxes, she added. He's buried under audits, red flags, and federal suspicion. The shell companies? All designed to launder money and hide assets from seizure. Kelvin leaned in, jaw tightening. How exposed is he? Patricia tapped the folder. Very. I traced 6 properties funneled through CW Global Assets. Your wife's name is on the Articles of Incorporation. She signed willingly? Twice. Kelvin exhaled slowly. Then I want him cornered before he knows he's hunted. Do you want to confront him? No, he said, standing. I want to warn him, just once, before it all collapses. Kelvin filed paperwork. Civil suit against Marla for unauthorized use of marital funds. Fraud report against Cliff filed with FBI White-Collar Crime Division. Criminal referral to IRS for tax evasion. Asset seizure requests for all shell company properties. Justice ground slowly, but exceedingly fine. Friday evening, Kelvin sat outside Giuseppe's, the upscale Italian restaurant where Marla celebrated her new chapter with Grace and society friends. Through windows, he saw them laughing, toasting champagne costing more than most people's daily wages. He walked inside, approached the maitre d'. I need to send something to the table by the window. The women celebrating. Anniversary? Something like that? The gift box looked innocent. Elegant wrapping, silver ribbon. Inside, USB drive containing audio recordings of Marla and Cliff discussing financial schemes, copied bank documents showing fraudulent transfers, photographs of hotel visits, and a typed note. You replaced me at the wedding. Now I'm replacing your future. The FBI thanks you for your cooperation. K. He watched from the bar as the sommelier delivered the box. Marla opened it with delighted anticipation, her face cycling through confusion, recognition, and terror. She grabbed Grace's arm, whispered frantically. The celebration died like someone cut the power. Kelvin left exact change and walked into the night, feeling lighter than he had in months. Monday brought chaos like a natural disaster. FBI raided Weston Enterprises at dawn, federal agents swarming Meridian Tower. They carried out boxes while news crews filmed, reporters describing the white-collar crime ring. By noon, financial newspapers ran stories about the investigation, complete with photographs of Cliff in handcuffs. Kelvin watched coverage from his office, coffee growing cold as he observed his enemy's empire's destruction. News anchors spoke seriously about wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, crimes carrying decades of prison time. His phone rang. Marla, voice cracking with panic. They arrested Cliff, froze his accounts. They're saying I'm part of it. Amazing how signatures work. When you sign your name, it becomes your responsibility. I need a lawyer. This is all a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Marla. You stole $27,000 from our joint account to fund your boyfriend's criminal enterprise. You signed documents making yourself an officer in his shell company. You actively participated in federal crimes. You did this. You reported us. I didn't destroy anything. I revealed everything. There's a difference. Choices come with price tags, Marla. Remember that word. You'll be hearing it a lot. Click. An hour later, Gavin showed up at the construction site looking like he'd aged 5 years overnight. This is insane. Gavin's face was red with fury. Cliff's arrested. Mom's named in federal investigation. Grace is freaking out because vendors are demanding payment. And you did this. You destroyed everything out of jealousy. Kelvin led him to the construction trailer, opened a filing cabinet, pulled out a thick folder. Sit down. Inside, Kelvin spread documents across the metal surface. Your friend Cliff has been stealing from us for months. $27,000 from the house renovation fund. Your mother helped. That's impossible. Her signature, her social security number, her incorporation as co-founder of his shell company. Kelvin pointed methodically. While I worked 16-hour days to pay for your sister's wedding, they were robbing us blind to fund their affair. Gavin stared at papers, his face cycling through emotions. This can't be right. FBI thinks it's right. That's why Cliff's in federal custody, facing 20 years. But the island, the watch, the internship. He was going to help me get into Harvard with stolen money, Gavin. Our stolen money. Money I earned breaking my back so you could have opportunities I never had. Gavin's hands shook as he leafed through evidence. I didn't know. No, you didn't. But you were happy to benefit, weren't you? Just like Grace was happy to have him walk her down the aisle. What happens now? Now you deal with reality. Cliff's going to federal prison. Your mother might join him. The fancy lifestyle, over, the trust fund, never existed. The opportunities, built on fraud and theft. So what am I supposed to do? Grow up, fast, learn what honest work feels like, discover that real opportunities come from effort, not connections to criminals. This is your fault. If you'd been a better father... Better. Kelvin's voice dropped to a menacing whisper. I worked myself to the bone for this family. Saved every penny for your educations, your futures. I was building something real, lasting. You traded it for fool's gold because it came with better packaging. Gavin stormed toward the door, turned back. I hate you for this. Good. Hold on to that feeling. Maybe it'll remind you what loyalty should have meant. The trailer door slammed hard enough to rattle windows. The arraignment was standing room only, packed with journalists, federal prosecutors, and victims. Investors who'd lost savings, contractors never paid, employees whose pensions were looted. Kelvin sat in back, watching as his wife's lover was led in wearing orange scrubs and handcuffs. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Walsh was methodical. Your Honor, the defendant operated a complex network of shell companies designed to defraud investors and launder money. Our investigation uncovered over $2 million in fraudulent transactions spanning multiple states involving dozens of victims. Cliff's expensive lawyer attempted damage control with desperation. My client denies all charges. This is overzealous prosecution. Your Honor, Walsh interrupted. We have documentary evidence linking the defendant to wire fraud, tax evasion, money laundering, and conspiracy charges spanning 3 years. His co-conspirator, Marla Race, has already provided testimony in exchange for a plea agreement. Kelvin's heart skipped. Marla had flipped, turned against her lover to save herself. The judge, severe and experienced, reviewed the filing. Bail is set at $5 million. Cash only. Defendant will surrender passport and submit to electronic monitoring pending trial. Cliff slumped like a marionette with cut strings. $5 million cash was impossible with frozen assets, seized accounts, his empire reduced to rubble. Outside the courthouse, Kelvin intercepted Marla near her attorney's BMW. She looked aged a decade, hollow-eyed, thin, wearing clothes suggesting shopping sprees were over. You testified against him. She couldn't meet his eyes. I had to. They were going to charge me as full conspirator. 20 years, Kelvin. 20 years in federal prison. And now? Plea agreement. Guilty to accessory charges. 5 years probation. Full restitution. How much restitution? Everything. The house, my retirement, my jewelry. Everything I own goes to paying back victims. Good. Kelvin, please. I messed up, but we can work this out. Counseling, start over. Start over? His laugh was harsh as winter wind. You think we can pretend you didn't replace me with a criminal? Pretend our son doesn't want to change his name? Pretend you didn't steal from our family to fund your affair? Marla started crying. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did, and now you face the cost. He walked away as she sobbed in the courthouse parking lot. 2 months later, the house was in foreclosure. Marla's restitution payments claimed everything she owned. Grace, humiliated by media coverage, had moved across country with her husband, whose family wanted nothing to do with the federal crime syndicate their son had married into. Gavin had dropped out of college, couldn't afford tuition without Cliff's promised support. He'd taken a warehouse job, learning real work for the first time. The name change petition arrived one final time, delivered by a process server. Gavin stood in the hallway, looking infinitely wearier than his 19 years. Expensive clothes were gone, replaced by honest labor's uniform, jeans, work boots, sweat-stained t-shirt. I need you to sign this. Same petition. Same request to change from race to Weston. Still chasing that dream? It's not a dream anymore. It's survival. Gavin's voice cracked. The race name is poison in this town. Everyone knows about the trial, media coverage, criminal connections. I can't get decent jobs. Can't get into good schools. Even community college looks at me sideways. You want to know something about names, Gavin? What? They don't change who you are. They just change how you hide from what you've done. Kelvin took a pen, and for a moment, Gavin's face lit up with desperate hope. Then Kelvin wrote across the petition, "Denied, permanently." Dad, you chose Cliff over me. You chose his money over our family. You chose his lies over my truth. Kelvin handed back the papers. Names can change, son, but consequences, they stick forever. Gavin stared at the rejected petition, hands trembling. So what am I supposed to do? The same way I lived with being replaced, you deal with it. This is cruel. No, Gavin, cruel is walking your daughter down the aisle while her real father sits at home. Cruel is stealing money from the man working to provide for you. Cruel is asking that same man to help you escape consequences of your choices. Kelvin walked back into his apartment, leaving his son in the hallway with worthless papers and the weight of his decisions. 6 months after the trial, Kelvin received a letter from the Federal Correctional Institution, where Cliff was serving 8 years. He visited the sterile room filled with quiet desperation of families maintaining connections across prison walls. Cliff looked nothing like the polished executive, hollow-eyed, ill-fitting orange, aged 20 years. Thank you for coming. Kelvin said nothing, waited. I wanted to apologize for everything. For Marla, the wedding, taking your family. You didn't take anything. They gave themselves away. I never set out to destroy your marriage. It just happened. Nothing just happened, Cliff. You systematically seduced my wife, stole my money, replaced me at my daughter's wedding, tried to adopt my son. Every action was calculated to erase me from my family's life. I was arrogant, thought money could buy anything. And now? Cliff gestured around the visiting room. Now I understand there are things you can't buy, can't steal, can't replace. Like what? Respect, real family, a man's legacy, love that doesn't come with a price tag. Your son came to see me last month. Kelvin stopped, turned back. He wanted to know if I could help him when I get out, still chasing easy money, connections without effort. What did you tell him? I told him to ask his father, the man who built everything from nothing, the man who never needed to steal or lie to be successful. Cliff's voice dropped. The man I tried to be, but never could. Kelvin left without another word, walking into sunshine and freedom Cliff wouldn't see for years. The final confrontation came on a Tuesday evening. Kelvin found Gavin waiting by his truck, looking like he'd been there hours. We need to settle this. Thought we already did. You destroyed my life out of spite, and now you won't give me a chance to fix it. Truth hurts, doesn't it? Cliff was going to help me, give me opportunities. With stolen money, with criminal connections, with lies and fraud. I didn't know that, Gavin's voice cracked. How was I supposed to know? But you didn't care where it came from, did you? As long as it was easier than earning it. Not everyone can be the perfect blue-collar hero like you. Some of us want more than working-class life. More what, Gavin? More money you didn't earn? More respect you didn't deserve? More opportunities handed to you by criminals? You're just jealous because he had everything you don't. Everything I don't have, like what? Money, power, class. The ability to give people what they need without making them grovel. And what did I have that he didn't? Gavin faltered. What do you mean? I had a son who respected me, a wife who loved me, a daughter proud to have me walk her down the aisle. I had a family built on something real. Had, past tense, because you all chose to trade it for fool's gold. And when the gold turned out stolen, when the fairy tale collapsed, you blame me for not protecting you from your own greed. Gavin stepped closer, fists clenched. You could have forgiven Mom, could have worked things out. Instead, you chose revenge. I chose consequences. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I stand, you look just as destructive as Cliff ever was. You're right about one thing, Gavin. I am destructive. When people cross me, betray me, replace me, I don't forgive and forget. I make sure they remember why they shouldn't have crossed me. So what happens now? Now you live with what you chose. Your mother chose Cliff over me. She got federal charges and bankruptcy. Cliff chose money over integrity. He got 8 years in prison. Grace chose social status over family. She got a marriage built on lies. And me? You chose fantasy over reality. You got reality. Gavin swung at him then. A wild, desperate punch. Kelvin caught his son's wrist, twisted just enough to send him stumbling into the truck. That the best you got? Gavin charged again, catching Kelvin around the waist in a clumsy tackle that sent them both crashing to asphalt. They rolled across the parking lot, Gavin throwing wild punches while Kelvin controlled his wrists with the easy strength of lifelong physical labor. This won't change anything, Kelvin grunted, pinning his son's arms. Fighting me won't bring back your trust fund. I hate you! Gavin screamed, tears streaming. I hate what you did to us. I hate that you destroyed everything instead of just letting it go. Good. Hold on to that. Maybe it'll teach you something about loyalty. Kelvin released him, stood up, brushed concrete dust off his jeans. Gavin lay on the ground, breathing hard, his expensive watch, the only remnant of brief luxury, cracked from the fall. Get up. No, I said get up. Gavin slowly pulled himself to his feet. I'm done with you, he whispered. I'm done with this family. I'm done with everything. Finally, something we agree on. Kelvin climbed into his truck, started the engine. Through the windshield, he could see Gavin standing in the parking lot, looking lost and broken. He drove away without looking back. 1 year later, Kelvin sat in his new office, a small construction consulting firm he'd started with money from liquidating assets. A knock interrupted his review of building plans. Grace stood in the doorway, uncomfortable but determined, wearing clothes suggesting her lifestyle had dramatically declined. Hello, Dad, he gestured to the chair across from his desk. Grace. She sat carefully, fidgeted with a discount store purse. I've been thinking about what happened, about the wedding, everything after, and I owe you an apology for excluding you, for choosing Cliff, for believing Mom when she said you didn't understand the importance of making the right impression. Kelvin waited. I was wrong. I know that now. Cliff, what he did to our family, what he took, I should have seen it. Should have questioned where the money came from. Should have, could have, would have. Doesn't change anything. I want to try to fix things between us. Fix what? You made your choice. You wanted a father figure who could elevate your social standing. You got one. The fact that he turned out to be a federal criminal isn't my problem. Grace's eyes filled with tears, but Kelvin felt nothing. No sympathy, no desire to comfort her. It was never about you not being good enough. That I was an embarrassment. That you deserved better. That Cliff could give you things I couldn't. Kelvin leaned back. The difference is, Grace, what I could give you was real. What he offered was stolen. I know that now. Now. After the arrests, trials, media coverage. After your husband's family disowned you. After your social circle discovered you're connected to a federal criminal. Kelvin shook his head. You don't want to reconcile, Grace. You want absolution. You want me to tell you it's okay, that we can go back to being family. Can't you forgive me? I already have. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean pretending that what happened didn't reveal who you really are when things get difficult. Grace stood up, composure cracking. So this is it? You're going to punish me forever for one mistake? I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself. You've already shown me who you are when the chips are down, when someone offers you something shinier. Why would I give you another chance to do it again? She walked to the door, turned back. For what it's worth, I loved you. I still love you. I know, but love isn't enough when it comes with conditions, when it's only convenient, when it can be traded away for something that looks better. Grace left without another word, and Kelvin returned to his building plans. On his desk sat a framed photo, the only family picture he'd kept, taken last Christmas when everyone was still pretending to be happy. He picked up the frame, studied their faces, then opened his desk drawer and placed it inside, face down. Some wounds never heal. Some betrayals cut too deep for forgiveness to bridge the gap. And sometimes the only way to save yourself is to let the people who hurt you live with the consequences of their choices. The jewelry box still sat on his kitchen counter at home, unopened and forgotten, a symbol of love that had arrived too late, a reminder that some moments, once lost, can never be recovered. But consequences, as he'd taught them all, have a way of lasting forever.